The galaxy was very quiet after Captain Myung-ho's intervention. For the first time in months, no one was shooting at anyone else. The Apex Coalition fleet floated helplessly in space, their weapons useless and their command ship trapped in an energy cage that no one understood. The Zephyrian people were safe, their cities healing from the biological weapons that had been turned harmless in minutes. Dr. Boram led a team of scientists to study what had happened. They examined the neutralized weapons, the energy signatures left behind by Myung-ho's technology, and the strange devices that had appeared and disappeared while cleaning the poison from Zephyrian cities. "This doesn't make sense," Dr. Boram told her assistant Young-soo as they reviewed the data. "According to our measurements, Captain Myung-ho's ship was manipulating matter at the quantum level. He was rewriting the basic structure of the Coalition's weapons while they were still inside their ships. That should be impossible." "What about the speed?" Young-soo asked. "Our sensors show his ship moving faster than light but not using any jump drive technology we recognize. That's another mystery. It's like he was stepping outside normal space-time and then stepping back in wherever he wanted to be. The energy requirements for something like that should be astronomical, but we detected no unusual power signatures." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss what the return of humanity meant for everyone else. Some were grateful that the war had been stopped. Others were terrified by the display of power they had witnessed. Commander Tae-ho, who had first detected the awakening in the silent sector, spoke to the assembly. "We need to remember that this human could have destroyed the Apex Coalition completely. Instead, he chose to disable them without harming anyone. That tells us something important about their intentions. But what about their capabilities?" demanded Councillor Vextar of the Regelian Federation. "One human stopped a galactic war in less than 20 minutes. What could 1,000,000 humans do? What could 3 billion do?" The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If humans were this powerful, did other species have any real freedom anymore? Their answer came the next day when Captain Myung-ho requested permission to address the council directly. He appeared as a hologram in the Great Assembly Hall, still wearing the simple uniform he had worn during his intervention. "Honored councilors," he began, his voice calm and respectful. "I know you have questions and concerns about my people's return. I'm here to address them honestly." He gestured, and the holographic display around him changed to show images from across the galaxy. "For 10,000 years, we watched your civilizations grow and develop. We saw you make the same mistakes we made, but we also saw you create beautiful things we never imagined. You built a society based on cooperation rather than conquest. You learned to celebrate diversity rather than demand uniformity. The images showed peaceful trade between different species, joint scientific projects, and diplomatic solutions to conflicts that could have become wars. In many ways," Myung-ho continued, "you have surpassed us. You achieved something we never could, true galactic peace. The war between the Zephyrians and Apex Coalition was an exception, not the rule. For centuries, your council has prevented conflicts and protected smaller species from larger ones." Councillor Yarbeth of the Zephyrian people stood up. "Captain Myung-ho, we are grateful for your intervention. You saved our people from extinction. But many of us are wondering, what do you want from us now?" Myung-ho smiled, and his expression was genuinely warm. "We want to help, but only if you want our help. We want to share our knowledge, but only if you're ready to use it wisely. Most importantly, we want to continue learning from you." "What do you mean?" asked Councillor Taerim of the Centauri Alliance. "My people are very good at building things and solving technical problems. But we were never very good at building lasting peace between different groups. You've achieved something we couldn't. A galactic civilization where hundreds of different species work together successfully. We want to learn how you did that." Myung-ho's expression became more serious. "But I must be honest with you about our nature. Humans are naturally inclined to help others, sometimes even when our help isn't wanted. We see problems and we want to fix them. We see suffering and we want to stop it. This can make us overwhelming." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "So we propose a compromise. A small number of humans will wake up and integrate into your society as advisors, teachers, and researchers. We will share our technology freely, but we will never rule over you. We will intervene in conflicts only when genocide or species extinction is threatened. We will be shepherds, not masters." "How many humans are we talking about?" asked Commander Tae-ho. perhaps a few thousand from each ship, enough to help with research and education, but not so many that we overwhelm your existing institutions. The rest will remain in stasis until they are needed or until you decide you're ready for more of us. Dr. Boram stood up from the scientific observer section. Captain Myung-ho, would you be willing to share your medical technology? We have diseases and conditions that have puzzled our doctors for centuries. Of course. In fact, I've already sent detailed medical information to hospitals throughout the galaxy. Your doctors should start seeing improvements in their treatment capabilities within days. What about your weapons technology? Asked a military representative nervously. Myung-ho's expression became very serious. Our defensive technologies will be shared freely. Shields, protective systems, ways to neutralize weapons without harming people. All of this is yours to use. But our offensive capabilities will remain restricted. The galaxy has seen enough weapons. Over the following weeks, the integration began slowly and carefully. Human advisors appeared at universities and research centers throughout the galaxy. They were polite, helpful, and surprisingly humble for beings with such advanced knowledge. Captain So Young, who had been part of the first contact team, found herself working as a permanent liaison between the Council and the awakened humans. She reported that the humans seemed genuinely interested in learning about galactic culture and politics. They ask more questions than they answer, she told Captain Dongjun during one of their regular meetings. They want to understand how we've managed to keep peace between so many different species. They seem almost amazed that we've succeeded where they failed. What about their technology sharing? Dongjun asked. It's incredible. Medical treatments that used to take months now work in days. Our ships are more efficient and safer. Our communication systems can reach places we could never contact before. But they're very careful about what they share and how fast they share it. 6 months later, the galaxy had settled into a new normal. Human advisors worked alongside alien scientists and teachers. Their knowledge had revolutionized medicine, space travel, and energy production. But more importantly, they had proven that their intentions were genuinely peaceful. On the research station where Dr. Boram worked, she often met with her human colleague, Dr. Na-young, who had been awakened specifically to help with archaeological research into ancient civilizations. Dr. Na-young, Boram asked one day, do you ever regret your people's decision to sleep for so long? Na-young considered the question carefully. No, I don't think so. When we went to sleep, we were becoming something the galaxy feared. Now we've awakened to find a galaxy that has surpassed us in the most important ways. We're not teachers anymore, we're students, and that's exactly what we needed to become. In the silent sector, Aegis continued his eternal watch over the thousands of ships and billions of sleeping humans, but now he also monitored the awakened humans, making sure they remained true to their purpose as guardians and helpers rather than rulers. Captain Myung-ho had returned to the Prometheus Unbound after completing his mission, but he remained awake to serve as a bridge between sleeping humanity and the galactic community. He spent his time studying reports from across the galaxy, learning about the complex political and social systems that kept peace between so many different species. Sometimes he would stand in the observation deck and look out at the stars, thinking about the choice his people had made 10,000 years ago. They had given up an empire to become something better. Protectors who watched from the shadows, helpers who gave aid without demanding gratitude, and teachers who were humble enough to become students. The galaxy was no longer silent about Sector 7 Gamma. Ships came and went regularly, carrying researchers and diplomats who worked with the awakened humans. But the vast majority of humanity remained asleep, dreaming of the day when they might no longer be needed as guardians. For now, though they were content to watch, to help when asked, and to learn from the remarkable civilization that had grown up in their absence, the shepherds had returned, but they had learned wisdom during their long sleep. They had become exactly what the galaxy needed, not conquerors but companions in the long journey toward a better future. The war had gotten much worse while Captain Dongjun and his team were aboard the human ship. General Yunseo watched from her command bridge as the last 3 Zephyrian worlds prepared for their final battle. Millions of refugees crowded into ships that were never meant to carry so many people, fleeing toward any safe space they could find. General, reported her communications officer Min-ho, the Apex Coalition has brought in their entire battle fleet. They're planning to attack all 3 worlds at the same time. Yunseo studied the tactical display with growing despair. Red dots representing enemy ships covered the screen like a disease. There were simply too many of them. Even if every Zephyrian fought perfectly, they would still lose. "Have we heard anything from that probe we sent to the silent sector?" she asked. "Nothing, General. It disappeared completely." Yunseo closed her eyes for a moment. She had gambled the last hope of her people on ancient legends and mysterious star charts. Now it looked like that gamble had failed. Across the galaxy, Captain Dongjun was trying desperately to prevent a disaster. His team had returned to their ship, but they remained docked with the human vessel while Aegis prepared to wake Captain Myung-ho. "So Young, can you establish contact with the Zephyrian fleet?" Dongjun asked urgently. "Tell them help is coming." "I'm trying, Captain, but the war zone is too chaotic. There's too much interference from all the military communications." Hyunwoo looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, I've been studying the human technology while we've been here. Their ships can do things that shouldn't be possible. They can move faster than light without using normal jump drives. They can manipulate matter at the molecular level. If this Captain Myung-ho is as enhanced as Aegis says, he might actually be able to stop this war by himself." "That's what worries me," Dongjun replied. "Power like that could save the galaxy or destroy it, depending on who's using it." On the other side of the human ship, Aegis was going through the complex process of waking someone who had been sleeping for 10,000 years. The stasis pod containing Captain Myung-ho glowed brighter and brighter as revival systems came online. "The awakening process takes approximately 1 hour," Aegis explained to the watching aliens. "During this time, Captain Myung-ho's enhanced mind will review all the data I have collected about the current galactic situation. When he wakes, he will be fully informed about everything that has happened since he went to sleep." The pod hissed softly as internal mechanisms began the delicate process of bringing a human back from deep stasis. Inside, they could see the figure of a man who appeared to be in his 30s, though Aegis had explained that enhanced humans aged very slowly. Meanwhile, the situation in Zephyrian space was becoming desperate. The Apex Coalition had begun their final attack, and their tactics were more brutal than anyone had expected. Instead of simply defeating the Zephyrian military, they were using weapons designed to kill entire planetary populations. "General!" Minho called out in horror. "The Coalition is using biological weapons against civilian targets. They're targeting specific genetic markers in Zephyrian DNA. Entire cities are going silent." Yunseo felt her heart break as reports came in from the surface. The weapon was designed to be a slow, painful death, and it was spreading faster than their medical teams could respond. This wasn't war anymore. This was genocide. "Send a message to every ship in the galaxy," she ordered. "Tell them what the Coalition is doing. If they're willing to commit genocide against us, they'll do it to other species too." The message went out across all communication channels, and the galaxy reacted with shock and horror. Several species that had been neutral in the conflict immediately condemned the Apex Coalition, but condemnation wouldn't save the Zephyrian people who were dying right now. Back on the human ship, the stasis pod finally opened with a soft sound, like a sigh. Captain Myung-ho sat up slowly, his eyes opening for the first time in 10 millennia. When he looked around the chamber, his gaze was calm and alert, showing no confusion despite his long sleep. "Aegis," he said, his voice steady and clear. "Status report. Welcome back, Captain. The galactic situation has deteriorated beyond acceptable parameters. Genocide is occurring. I recommend immediate intervention." Myung-ho stood up from the pod, and Captain Dongjun was surprised by how normal he looked. The enhanced human was tall and athletic, with kind eyes and graying hair. He could have been anyone's uncle or older brother, but when he turned to look at the aliens, there was something in his gaze that suggested vast intelligence and experience. "You must be the exploration team that Aegis told me about," Myung-ho said, speaking perfect galactic standard language. "Thank you for coming here. I know the situation must be very frightening for you." "Captain Myung-ho," Dongjun said carefully, "we've seen what your people were capable of 10,000 years ago. What can you do now after all this time?" Myung-ho smiled sadly. "Much more than I would like to, Captain Dongjun. But don't worry. I have no intention of conquering anyone or ruling anything. I'm going to stop the genocide, disable the aggressors, and then return to sleep. That's all." He walked over to a wall panel and placed his hand on it. Immediately, the entire ship came alive with activity. Lights brightened, systems activated, and somewhere in the distance they could hear the sound of powerful engines starting up. "Aegis, prepare my ship. I'll take the Harmony's edge. It's small enough to avoid causing panic, but powerful enough to handle this situation. Understood, Captain. The ship will be ready in 10 minutes. Myung-ho turned back to the aliens. I want you to witness what happens next so you can report back to your council. It's important that they understand we're not conquerors. We're guardians. There's a difference. As they watched, a section of the huge ship opened to reveal a smaller vessel. It was about the size of a normal galactic cruiser, but its design was unlike anything they had ever seen. The hull seemed to shimmer and shift as if it were made of liquid metal. That ship, Hyunwoo whispered. It's beautiful. It's also the most advanced piece of technology in the galaxy, Myung-ho said matter-of-factly. But I'm not going to use it to destroy anyone. Watch. The Harmony's Edge launched from the human mothership and immediately disappeared. Not invisible, actually gone as if it had stopped existing. A moment later it reappeared in Zephyrian space thousands of light years away. The journey that should have taken weeks had happened instantly. Captain Dong-jun and his team watched through the human ship's sensors as Myung-ho approached the massive Apex Coalition fleet. There were thousands of enemy ships armed with the most advanced weapons known to galactic civilization. Against them was one human in one ship. Aegis, Dong-jun asked nervously. Will he be safe? Captain Myung-ho is in no danger, the AI replied. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for what comes next. On his ship, Myung-ho studied the tactical situation for exactly 37 seconds. Then he began to work. His enhanced mind calculated thousands of possible approaches in the time it took a normal person to blink. His hands moved over controls that responded to his thoughts as much as his touch. The first thing that happened was that every Apex Coalition weapon stopped working. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply deactivated. Thousands of warships found themselves floating helplessly in space, their crews staring at control panels that no longer responded. The second thing was that every biological weapon the Coalition had deployed was neutralized. The poison spreading through Zephyrian cities was broken down into harmless components by devices that materialized out of nowhere and then vanished just as quickly. The third thing was that the Coalition's command ship found itself surrounded by a cage of pure energy, not harmful but absolutely inescapable. All of this happened in less than 17 minutes. General Yun Seo stared at her tactical display in disbelief. The red dots representing enemy ships were all still there, but they were no longer threats. They were just floating objects. General, Minho said in a voice full of wonder. Someone just saved us. Someone just saved everyone. Aegis led Captain Dong-jun and his team through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The ship was much larger inside than it appeared from the outside, with multiple levels and sections that defied normal understanding of space. Everything was spotlessly clean as if it had been maintained perfectly for thousands of years. This way, please, Aegis said, his holographic form walking ahead of them. There is much you need to understand before any decisions are made. So-young was frantically recording everything with her equipment. Aegis, how long have you been alone here? I have not been alone, the AI replied. I am the caretaker for 847,000 humans who are currently in deep stasis aboard this ship. I am also in constant communication with 2,847 other ships like this one throughout the silent sector. Hyunwoo nearly dropped his scanner. There are almost 3,000 ships like this? Indeed. When humanity chose to enter what you call the silent sector, we came prepared to stay for as long as necessary. Each ship carries between 500,000 and 1 million humans in stasis, along with all the technology and resources needed to maintain them indefinitely. They entered a vast chamber filled with row upon row of cylindrical pods. Each pod glowed softly with blue light, and inside Captain Dong-jun could see the shadowy form of a sleeping human. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. There were thousands of pods in this chamber alone. Why? Dong-jun asked quietly. Why did they choose to sleep? Aegis gestured for them to sit on benches that rose from the floor. The holographic human's expression became sad and thoughtful. To understand that, you must know what humanity was like 10,000 years ago. The air around them shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by holographic images from the past. They saw humans building massive cities that floated in space, ships that could cross the galaxy in days rather than months, and technology that seemed like magic. We were very advanced, Aegis explained, but we were also very dangerous. Humans are naturally curious and aggressive. We expand quickly. We take risks that other species would never consider, and we have a talent for turning anything into a weapon." The holographic scenes changed to show humans in conflicts with other species. The aliens watching could see that humans were incredibly effective warriors, but they also seemed to take little joy in fighting. They looked tired, almost sad. "The problem was not that we were evil," Aegis continued. "The problem was that we were too good at everything. When humans wanted to explore, we built ships faster than anyone else. When we wanted to trade, we became better merchants than species who had been trading for millions of years. When we were forced to fight, we won so completely that our enemies sometimes gave up their entire civilizations rather than continue." So Young was recording everything, but she looked disturbed. "You make it sound like humans were unstoppable. In many ways we were, but our leaders were wise enough to see where this was leading. Other species were becoming afraid of us. Some were planning to unite against humanity before we became too powerful to stop. The galaxy was heading toward a war that would have destroyed countless civilizations." The holographic display showed a massive meeting of human leaders from across the galaxy. They were debating something with great intensity, and many of them looked deeply troubled. "So what did you decide?" Dongjun asked. "We chose to step back. All of humanity, everywhere in the galaxy, agreed to enter voluntary exile. We gathered our people, our technology, and our knowledge, and we came here to the edge of known space. We built these ships and entered stasis, choosing to sleep rather than dominate." Aegis paused, and his expression became very serious. "But we did not simply disappear. We left guardians like myself with specific instructions. We were to monitor the galaxy, watch how the younger species developed, and only wake our people if absolutely necessary." "What would make it necessary?" Hyunwoo asked, though he sounded like he might not want to know the answer. "Genocide, species extinction events, wars that threaten to destroy galactic civilization itself, the conditions that originally drove us into exile." The holographic scenes around them changed again, showing recent events from across the galaxy. They could see the war between the Zephyrians and the Apex Coalition, the refugee ships fleeing from destroyed worlds, and the growing chaos as other species were drawn into the conflict. "According to my analysis," Aegis said, "the current conflict has a 73% probability of escalating into a galaxy-wide war within 6 months. The Apex Coalition's use of biological weapons against civilian populations qualifies as genocide under our intervention protocols." Captain Dongjun felt a chill run down his spine. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means, Captain, that for the first time in 10,000 years the conditions exist for waking the sleepers." Aegis gestured toward the stasis pods around them. "Each human in these chambers has been continuously improved during their sleep. Their bodies are stronger, faster, and more resilient than they were when they entered stasis. Their minds have been enhanced to process information at incredible speeds. They carry within their memories the accumulated knowledge and experience of thousands of years." "Enhanced how?" So Young asked nervously. "Imagine someone who can think 100 times faster than a normal person, who never gets tired, who can understand and use any technology just by looking at it. Imagine warriors who can predict their enemies' actions before those enemies have even decided what to do. Imagine engineers who can build machines that reshape reality itself." The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. If humans had been dangerous 10,000 years ago, what had they become during their long sleep? "But surely they're still human," Dongjun said hopefully. "They still have human emotions, human values." "Oh yes," Aegis replied. "They are still human in all the ways that matter. They still value life, still prefer peace to war, still want to help rather than harm. But Captain, you must understand. When a species becomes powerful enough to reshape reality, their capacity to help and their capacity to harm both become almost limitless." The AI's expression became even more serious. "The probe that was sent into our sector came from General Yun Seo of the Zephyrian Resistance. Her people are facing extinction. The Guardian protocols have been activated, and now I must ask the question that will determine the fate of your galaxy." Aegis looked directly at each of them in turn. "Shall I wake one ship to deal with this crisis, or shall I wake all of them? One ship contains nearly 1 million enhanced humans with 10,000 years of accumulated knowledge and technology. All ships contain almost 3 billion. The silence that followed was deafening. Captain Dongjun realized that the next word spoken might determine whether the galaxy gained powerful protectors or unstoppable conquerors. "Aegis," he said carefully, "what would you recommend?" The AI was quiet for a long moment. "I recommend waking one ship first. One enhanced human with access to our technology should be sufficient to stop the current crisis. If the situation requires more intervention, additional ships can be awakened as needed. One human? Hyunwoo asked.
Just one?
Captain, you do not yet understand what 10,000 years of enhancement has made possible.
One awakened human with access to our technology could disable every military ship in the galaxy without destroying a single one. The question is not whether one human is enough. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for even one of us to wake up. Aegis turned to face the stasis pods. I will ask you once more, and then I must decide. The Zephyrian people are dying. The war is spreading. Genocide is occurring. Shall I wake a guardian? Captain Dongjun looked at his team, then at the thousands of sleeping humans around them. He thought about General Yoon Seo and her desperate fight for survival. He thought about the Apex Coalition's biological weapons and the billions of aliens who would die if the war continued. Finally, he spoke. Wake one. But Aegis, please choose carefully. Choose someone who will stop the killing, not add to it. Aegis nodded solemnly. I will wake Captain Myung-ho. He was our best diplomatic warrior, skilled at ending conflicts with minimal loss of life. He has been sleeping for 10,000 years, dreaming of peace. As they watched, one of the stasis pods began to glow brighter. After 10 millennia of sleep, humanity was about to return to the galaxy. Dr. Boram had not slept in 3 days. The mysterious message from the silent sector was playing on every communication device in the galaxy. And as the Council's top expert on ancient languages, she was the only one who could figure out what it meant. Her laboratory on the Council's main research station was filled with holographic displays showing ancient texts and star charts. Empty coffee cups covered every surface, and her assistant had given up trying to make her eat regular meals. The phrase Shepherds of Sol appeared nowhere in any database she could find. Dr. Boram, her assistant Young-soo, said carefully, Maybe you should rest. You've been working non-stop since the signal started. I can't rest, Boram replied without looking up from her work. This is the first time anyone has heard from the silent sector in 10,000 years. Whatever sent that message is older than our oldest civilizations. We need to understand what it wants. She pulled up another holographic display, this one showing linguistic patterns from dead languages. Slowly, piece by piece, she was starting to understand the structure of the ancient words. The message wasn't just a question. It was a challenge. And it was getting stronger. Young-soo, look at this, she said, pointing to a section of translated text. I found references to something called humans in some very old archaeological records. They were apparently a species that lived in this part of the galaxy about 10,000 years ago. What happened to them? That's the strange part. They didn't die out gradually like most extinct species. According to these records, they just disappeared. All at once. Every human in the galaxy vanished in the same year, leaving behind only empty cities and strange warnings. Young-soo leaned closer to read the ancient text. What kind of warnings? Things like, we choose to sleep and the shepherds will return when needed. It's almost like they knew they were leaving and planned to come back someday. Before Young-soo could respond, alarms started ringing throughout the research station. The communication system crackled to life with an urgent message from the Council. All ships maintain distance from Sector 7 Gamma. Unknown massive object detected moving within the sector boundaries. Boram and Young-soo rushed to the long-range sensor station. What they saw on the screen made them both stop breathing. Something enormous was moving in the depths of the silent sector. The object was bigger than most moons, and it was clearly artificial. Worse, it was heading toward the edge of the sector. Get me Captain Dongjun, Boram said urgently. If anyone's going to make contact with whatever that is, it should be someone who knows how to handle first contact situations. Captain Dongjun received the emergency call while his ship, the Stellar Wind, was docked at a supply station near the galactic core. He was a veteran explorer who had made peaceful contact with 7 different species during his career. If the Council needed someone to talk to aliens, he was usually their first choice. Captain, the Council representative said through the communication link, we need you to take a team to the edge of Sector 7 Gamma. Something big is coming out of there, and we think it might be intelligent. Dongjun gathered his best crew quickly. Communication specialist So Young was an expert at decoding alien languages and had never failed to establish contact with a new species. Combat engineer Hyunwoo could fix or figure out almost any technology. which might be useful if they encountered advanced alien devices. His pilot, Yunji, could fly through an asteroid field blindfolded. The journey to the silent sector took 2 days at maximum speed. During the flight, So-young studied the mysterious message that was still broadcasting across the galaxy. She played it over and over, trying to understand not just the words but the tone and intent behind them. "Captain," she reported, "I think this message is some kind of automatic response, like a security system that activates when someone gets too close. The being or computer that sent it is asking who woke up the shepherds of Sol, but I don't think it's angry. It sounds more curious." "That's good news," Dongjun replied. "Curious aliens are usually easier to talk to than angry ones." When they reached the edge of the silent sector, what they found was beyond anything they had imagined. The massive object that the sensors had detected was now clearly visible, a ring-shaped structure that glowed with soft blue lights. It was easily 50 kilometers across and looked like it had been built by someone who understood technology, far beyond current galactic knowledge. "Captain," Hyun-woo said from the engineering station, "our ship's computer is acting very strangely. It keeps trying to rewrite its own programming with code I've never seen before. Is it dangerous? I don't think so. Actually, our systems are running better than ever. It's like something is upgrading our technology to make it compatible with whatever's out there." As they approached the ring structure, docking bays opened automatically along its inner surface. Tractor beams that were somehow gentle despite their obvious power began pulling their ship toward one of the bays. "So-young, can you establish communication?" Dongjun asked. "I'm trying." "Captain, but whatever's controlling this place seems to be communicating directly with our computer instead of using normal channels." The ship was guided into a docking bay that was clearly designed for vessels their size. The bay sealed itself and filled with breathable atmosphere. When the docking process was complete, a message appeared on all their screens in perfect galactic standard language. "Welcome. Please proceed to the central hub for orientation." "Well," Dongjun said, "at least they're polite." The corridor they entered was clearly built for beings about 2 meters tall who walked on 2 legs. The walls were covered with symbols that their translation devices couldn't quite understand. But So-young's equipment was slowly making progress. "Captain, I'm getting partial translations of these wall markings. This place is called something like Terra Nova-class deep space colony ship, Prometheus Unbound. And according to these symbols, it's not just a ship. It's a home for thousands of beings." They followed the corridor deeper into the structure, passing rooms and chambers that were clearly designed for long-term habitation. Everything was clean and well-maintained despite obviously being very old. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the central hub, a vast spherical chamber with walkways and platforms arranged in complex 3-dimensional patterns. At the center was a holographic display showing star charts and technical readouts that were far more advanced than anything in current galactic knowledge. "Greetings," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am the autonomous Earth Guardian Intelligence System. You may call me Aegis. I have been waiting for someone to find us for quite some time." The holographic display shifted, and suddenly they were looking at the image of a middle-aged human male with kind eyes and graying hair. He wore simple clothes and spoke with the manner of someone who had been expecting them. "You are the first aliens to enter this facility in 10,000 years, Aegis continued. "My creators, the humans of Earth, left specific instructions about what to do if this day ever came. Before we proceed, I must ask, what has awakened the Guardian protocols? What threat to galactic peace has become serious enough to disturb our sleep?" Dongjun stepped forward. "I'm Captain Dongjun of the Galactic Council Exploration Service. We're here because someone sent a probe into your sector and your response has been detected across the entire galaxy. We don't mean any harm. We just want to understand." Aegis studied them for a moment with an expression that seemed almost human in its curiosity and concern. "I see. The probe you mentioned was sent by a species under threat of extinction. My sensors indicate that a galactic war is currently underway with billions of lives at risk. This situation matches several conditions in my activation protocols." The holographic human paused, and for a moment his expression became very serious. "Captain Dongjun, I must tell you something that will be difficult to understand. The beings you call humans did not disappear 10,000 years ago. We chose to sleep. And now it seems it may be time for some of us to wake up." The stars in Sector 7 Gamma had been quiet for so long that most aliens forgot they were even there. Commander Tejo of the Valerian fleet pressed his scaled hand against the cold metal of his ship's window and stared into the dark space ahead. His crew called this place the Silent Sector, and for good reason. No ships came from there, no signals, no life, just empty darkness that stretched for hundreds of light years. Tejo had been patrolling these borders for 15 years. His job was simple: fly around the edge of the sector, make sure nothing dangerous came out, and report back to the Galactic Council. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. The Council had made it very clear that no one was allowed to go into the Silent Sector. Ever. "Commander," called out his communications officer, a young Valerian named Kilho. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors." Tejo turned away from the window. His ship, the Starwalker, was small but well-equipped. It had the best sensors money could buy, which made Kilho's words very concerning. "What kind of strange?" "Energy readings, sir. Coming from deep inside the sector." "But that's impossible. Nothing lives in there." Tejo walked over to the sensor station. The screen showed a three-dimensional map of nearby space. Everything looked normal except for one tiny red dot far inside the forbidden zone. The dot pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. "How deep?" Tejo asked. "About 50 light-years into the sector, sir." "The energy signature is massive. I've never seen anything like it." Tejo felt his stomach drop. In all his years of patrol duty, the sensors had never detected anything from inside the Silent Sector. Not once. And now there was something there, something powerful enough to be detected from 50 light-years away. "Send a priority message to Council Command," Tejo ordered. "Tell them we have unknown energy readings from inside Sector 7 Gamma. Request immediate instructions." While Kilho sent the message, Tejo stared at the red dot on the screen. It continued to pulse steady and strong. Whatever was making that energy signature was big, really big, and it was awake. Far away, on the other side of the galaxy, a very different kind of crisis was unfolding. General Yunseo stood on the command deck of her battlecruiser and watched her homeworld burn. The Apex Coalition had been attacking Zephyrian planets for 3 months now, and they were winning. Badly. Yunseo was one of the last Zephyrian military commanders still alive. Her people were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful traders and scholars. They had never been warriors. But when the Apex Coalition decided that Zephyrian space would make a nice addition to their empire, her people had no choice but to fight. "General," said her aide, a nervous young officer named Minho, "the Coalition fleet will reach Kepler 442b in 6 hours. Our defenses won't hold." Yunseo nodded grimly. Kepler 442b was their last major world. When it fell, the Zephyrian people would be scattered refugees with no home to return to. She had tried everything. Diplomatic talks, guerrilla warfare, even asking other species for help. Nothing worked. The Apex Coalition was too strong and they wanted total victory. "General, there's something else," Minho continued. "The archaeological team on Research Station Delta 7 sent us this before they evacuated." He handed her a datapad. On the screen was a star chart unlike anything she had ever seen. The symbols were ancient, older than any known civilization. But what caught her attention was a section of the map that showed a region of space marked with strange warnings. The area was labeled in an unknown language, but her translation software managed to convert part of it. "The Sleeping Giants of Sol." "Where did they find this?" Yunseo asked. "In a crashed survey ship that's been drifting in space for thousands of years. The team thought it might be valuable, so they downloaded everything they could before the Coalition arrived." Yunseo studied the map more carefully. The coordinates for this Sleeping Giants region pointed to a place she recognized. Sector 7 Gamma, the area that all galactic maps simply marked as uninhabited space. But according to this ancient chart, something was definitely there. Something that the original mapmakers had thought was important enough to mark with warnings. "General, we need to evacuate," Minho said urgently. "The Coalition ships are getting closer." Yunseo made a decision that would change everything. "Send a probe to these coordinates," she said, pointing to the Silent Sector on the ancient map. "If there's something sleeping out there, maybe it's time to wake it up. But General, that's forbidden space." The Galactic Council isn't here fighting for their lives," Yunseo interrupted. "We are. And if there's even a small chance that something in that sector can help us survive, We have to try. The probe launched just as coalition forces began their final attack on Kepler 442b. It was a small device, barely larger than a person, but it carried the hopes of an entire species. The journey to the silent sector would take several days, even at maximum speed. Back on the Starwalker, Commander Tejo received new orders from the Council. He was to maintain his position and continue monitoring, but under no circumstances should he enter the sector. The Council was sending a science ship to investigate, but it would take weeks to arrive. "Sir," Kilho called out suddenly, "the energy readings are changing. Whatever's in there, it's getting stronger." Tejo looked at the sensor display again. The red dot was now noticeably brighter, and it seemed to be moving. Very slowly, but definitely moving. "Sir, I'm detecting another signal. It's a probe coming from Zephyrian space. It's heading straight for the energy source." "A Zephyrian probe? What are they doing out here?" Before Kilho could answer, something incredible happened. The probe disappeared from their sensors completely. One moment it was there, flying toward the silent sector at high speed. The next moment it was simply gone. "Did it malfunction?" Tejo asked. "No, sir. It just stopped existing." "But wait, I'm getting something else now." The communication system suddenly came alive with a sound that made everyone on the bridge freeze. It was a low rhythmic pulse, like a giant drum beating slowly in the depths of space. The sound was coming from inside the silent sector, and it was broadcasting on every frequency at once. "Can you understand it?" Tejo asked. Kilho worked frantically at his console, running the signal through every translation program they had. After several minutes, words began to appear on his screen. They were in an ancient language that barely existed in their databases, but the computer managed to translate them. "Who dares wake the shepherds of Sol?" The message repeated over and over, growing stronger with each repetition. Soon it was broadcasting so powerfully that ships throughout the galaxy could hear it. And with each pulse, the energy readings from inside the silent sector grew brighter. Something that had been sleeping for 10,000 years was finally waking up, and it wanted to know who had disturbed its rest.